All right. I was asked actually on Google Plus if I could work on uh, explaining a torso a little bit more, and so I'm gonna do some torso exercises. Okay, so when you're doing torsos, the first thing that you have to realize is, and I'm just gonna zoom up here. Um, the first thing that you have to realize is when you're doing a torso, there's male and female, and basically the easiest way to explain the differences between the two is think of, and this is from the front view, is think of a male torso as a box or a more of a kind of elongated rectangle here, something like that, and a slightly smaller box underneath. And that's going to give you kind of a V when you connect those two together. Now, think about adding a neck, arms, and that is kind of that rough idea of the torso. Now, with that, what you've got going on is essentially the female torso. And the female torso is kind of that same aspect. You've got I like to use these kind of little bit of a kind of an egg almost. And then the base of the female is a little bit wider. So the hips usually are wider. And this is not always the case. Some females have kind of more of a straight post, but in general, you've got a wider female. And when you do this, you want to think about the angle of this. So we're just going to kind of put in kind of that V here, like so. Now a male's V, where the pelvis is, isn't as wide. So when you look at a female, they generally have a little bit more wider hips and more of that kind of angle going on. Now, there's a couple parts that you want to look at. So on a male, you've got the line coming down, and then you've got kind of it breaking into the rib cage. So here's your rib cage, and this brings down it into the kind of abdominal wall, if you will. The female comes down as well, and I should have put these a little bit closer together. Let me just do this real quick and just slightly move this up here. And the female comes a little bit down like so. So this is kind of that hip idea for the female. And again, same thing. Put the neck on there, adding in the arms here, and then we basically are doing a center straight line, and the rib cage. The rib cage is about the same kind of angle, and then comes straight down into the abdominal wall. Now, the female torso has breasts, and it's a little bit different. So the pectorals basically come from the shoulders um, over like so. So this is really simplifying things. So just so you know, so shoulders down. Same thing with the female. However, the female has the pectoral muscles that come up here, like so, and then based off of that pectoral muscle here, that's when the breast starts. So depending on the size of the breasts and all of that information, that's kind of where it falls roughly in that plane. So again, this is very rough definition, very, very basics. Now, as you go, you have to realize from the side view, it's pretty much the same thing. You have the rib cage, and then you are going to have the torso. Now, a male's torso is a little bit more flat, so something like this, and it turns into a jelly bean style shape um, that you use for the side view. Female torsos, however, again, a little bit bigger ball down here because generally we want a little bit more booty in the back, and then the torso comes down like so, like this. And then here's where the difference is between a male and a female. A female has more of an angle going on here. So the pelvis comes almost back. And so when you do this, you'll notice it has more of a bend in there. And I think that's what attributes for more of this kind of torso. So again, looking back at it, you've got your male, and you've got your female. This is your male and your female. Now, these are very basic shapes, and with that in mind, you want to have an idea of how they bend. So when you look at a female or a male, doesn't matter, wow, their spine goes something like this. So basically, this goes up into the neck and the head, and this is the coccyx and tail bone right there. So when the torso bends, and I'm just going to draw kind of legs here for this. So when the torso bends like this, it actually rounds out. So the curve around here rounds out. This actually straightens out a little bit, and then it comes bend like this is your tailbone. So kind of like that. All right. Now there's different parts that bend differently. The tailbone or the rib cage from here to here, this really doesn't bend. So it's always kind of got that same shape going on. And then from here to here is pretty much a kind of once it locks into the hips, it's pretty much solid. So what really bends is this section right here. This is your bendy part. Okay, so that tells us to make action poses and things like that. It all basically takes place here. Now, it's very simple to kind of block out a character. So here's how I do this. You want like a 3/4 view. So all I do is I draw my cylinder here. And I always put, one, the center of the rib cage, and two, kind of that angle of where the clavicle is. So I always put those two in there just for my mental kind of say. And then as this comes around, you basically see that it's got a torso, and then I'm just going to draw in kind of the hips like so. And again, keep that center down, because that center tells me which angle the hips are. Now, it can easily, you can easily twist this something like that and get kind of this oblong kind of weird twist going on. And that's kind of how I tend to kind of measure things. Now from here, you're coming down, and from here, what I do is I just kind of join those two together, and that basically builds up your base of your torso. And again, put your hips in, or hips for the angle for the male or female, and then same thing here. You've got angle for the male and female, and then this is a little bit different. What you need to do is you need to connect that curve down. So I've basically twisted this, and then you're going to, it's still going to kind of twist like so. And what's going to happen is the torso is going to come down. Now I drew this a little bit long, but you want to add that kind of twist in there. And that's going to kind of help you out. And I think I actually just drew it the wrong direction, so we're just going to change. So adding that twist in there is going to help you out. Then from there, you've got rib cage, and again, the same content. Now, that's kind of how I do my rough ideas, my skeleton. I basically just draw the kind of that stick figure. So if I'm going to have a character bending over, I've got my torso, I've got my hips, and then I just kind of sketch out like so. And then pectorials, arms on the side, and so on and so forth. So it's really about how you are developing your idea of your initial stick figure and your pose or your initial gesture. So you can easily kind of break down that character. All right. Now, once you get used to that methodology, then it really boils into just kind of a different aspect. You start breaking things down a little bit more. So we've got pectorials, kind of this like so, and we're just going to raise, and here is my clavicle, like so. Now clavicles go up and down, so what I do is I raise this if I'm going to have the arms coming up like he's stretching or yawning, and then again it's breaking down the individual parts. So again, break down your hip location here, and then you break down into your rib cage, and then start connecting things together. Now, there are different types of muscles in here, and I can sit and draw these all out, but the main thing to get is the form and the basic idea of it. And so with that, once you get the form down and that basic idea of how that torso is twisting, then you can actually add in some more anatomy. And I'm just kind of, again, following my steps here. Torso with my center line. Pectorals come up like that. Come up, and then this is torso like so. Shoulder muscle, torso right there. Comes up. Neck. Rib cage here. And then here's some muscles landmarks that you want to pay attention to. So you've got a muscle here, and that basically runs up to the back here. And then you've got the rib muscles, and they overlap each other. Same thing over here if they do manage to see it. And then you have basically the six-pack, and the six-pack stops at the belly button, and then you've got kind of your abs like so. And then you will have hips, which are in there, and then you'll have the oblique muscles here, and then sometimes you'll see, which not always, but depending on how skinny the person is, you'll see these muscles here, which basically kind of push that flow of that left-right bend there. Okay, and so that's kind of the basics of doing a torso. Break it down into easy shapes, and then from there, what you can do is pretty much bend it any way you want it, twist it what you want it. And now this is about sketching from your head. If you're confused at first, grab reference. I mean, you can always take off your shirt and kind of make it up as you just take a snapshot of yourself in that direction, and you can get some easy, quick reference to go on. All right, I hope that helps.